Well, good Saturday morning, everybody. Thanks for joining me. My name is Chris, and this is Coffee with Chris. It's a weekend episodic type video that we do in addition to our normal weekly videos where we're out in the shop and building things and providing woodworking and wood business tips. Thanks for joining me again. And before we hop into this week's topic, I've got a lot to cover on it. So I want to make sure we give it the right amount of time. But before we hop into this week's conversation, I do want to say thank you to those that left comments over this past week off of last week's video. During that video, I presented a couple of cutting board options that I had cut out. The state of Arkansas is examples that I used. But I had mentioned that there are different ways that you can use similar products, and you can present them in different ways that would help market to different buyers, to different people, and maybe create some revenue for you. And they didn't have to be anything extreme. They could just be some variations of the same thing. What I showed last week was a walnut cutting board in the shape of the state of Arkansas, where I'm at. And then I showed an option for that was made out of aspen, which is something similar to pine. It's a softer wood. And it would be something that you could use and make like a sign out of that which you would hang on the wall for home decor. And so similar products, different materials serves different purposes for different clients or different types of buyers. And so I did have a few people post that they had some other ideas. One was that you could use it for making like a plaque to mount your antlers if you're a hunter, to put antlers on. Or a fish if you're a fisherman and you wanted to mount and show your trophies. And that's actually something I've thought of, and that's a great idea. And then someone else said, if you didn't want to use it for a cutting board, you could use it maybe for it's like a pot holder, a hot pad. And so that just goes to show there are a lot of different applications that you can use where you don't have to make a million different products. You don't have to have a million different tools or setup, but you can kind of do slight variations of things and get different results and brand them different ways. So, and that kind of leads into this week's topic. And so today we're going to talk about something that just strikes fear in the hearts of a lot of people. And especially people that don't like technology, that aren't into being out there, putting themselves out there, being in front of a camera, things like that, and don't like sitting in front of a computer and doing that kind of thing. So, of course, woodworking channel. So we're going to mainly be referring to woodworkers, but this could apply to a lot of other things as well. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of coffee if you need one, or whatever else you like to drink, and let's talk about marketing. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Chris, I got into woodworking to build things, not to spend time online or on social media peddling stuff. Trust me, I get that, guys. I get it. Most of us would rather spend 3-4 hours in a shop than making 15-minute Facebook post or YouTube post or whatever it is that we're on, Instagram or any other platform, right? But the reality is, guys, if nobody knows you exist, no one can buy what you build. And we've talked about it before. Not everybody's purpose is to sell their products. If that's the case, the marketing conversation is probably not something you might be interested in. Now, hang with me, because even if you're not currently doing that, it may be something you want to get into in the future, just for a side hustle to make some extra money, or maybe a retirement gig, or whatever the case may be. So hang with me, even if you're not currently really thinking about that. But all these things where we need to get ourselves out there, and people need to know we exist and that we sell whatever it is we're selling, or we make whatever it is we're making. That's where marketing comes in. And you guys that have watched me, I'm going to take this and put a little different spin on it because that's how I do things. So we're not talking about sleazy sales tactics. We're not talking about ways to pressure people into buying stuff. Simply, we just want to let people know who you are, what you do, and why it matters. And you've heard me say the phrase before, it's not about perfection, It's about purpose. So, today I want to share with you a few lessons I've learned along the way in 20 years of running multi-million dollar retail optical stores, in running smaller independently owned optical shops, running my own home inspection company for 7 or 8 years where everything is literally on me and on my dime. And then in the last year and a half of working on this woodworking journey. Now, some of these things I'm still working on. Some of these things I just recently had epiphanies about, and I'm really focusing on them right now. So it's not that I've got it all down and I've got it all perfect, but these are things that we could all put into place that would help us grow our woodworking business or our side hustle. So let's get going. All right. Lesson 1, people buy the story. Now, one of the biggest mistakes I see woodworkers make is posting a finished project and saying, cutting boards for sale, $75. And that's it. But people aren't always buying the cutting board. They're buying the story behind it. They're buying the fact that it was handcrafted. They're buying the family memories that they imagine making around it. This is something that people that make tables do a fantastic job of, whether they're small businesses in their garage or they've grown into a larger business. Something that's always stood out to me is kitchen tables, and even now coffee tables. I think I've said it before, to me the coffee table is the new kitchen table. So many people hang out and eat around their coffee table while they're watching movies or television. They play their board games at their coffee table. That's what my family does. We have a kitchen table in our kitchen in the dining area. We hardly ever use it, and we hang out around the coffee table. But this is something that people that build tables do a fantastic job of, is they create this picture of this handcrafted table that they built and how awesome this thing is going to be in your home and with your family for generations to come. And you're going to remember playing games or eating dinner with your kids when they were little, and all these different things that just create these emotions. And that's not a bad thing to create because it's a true thing. People just may not think about that up front. So people want to know the story behind what you're making and what you're building and what they're thinking about buying. They want to know, they want to remember the family memories. They want to imagine being able to make those things. They want something that feels different from what you would get at the big box store, something that looks different. So many times you hear, oh, I can buy these for X number of dollars at Walmart or whatever it is. Yeah, you can buy a wooden cutting board at Walmart. We'll keep going with the cutting board example. You can buy a wooden cutting board at Walmart made out of, I think you pronounce it acacia wood, and they do have those, and they're $10 or $12 or whatever. I've got some of them. They warp, they crack, and they break, no matter how well you take care of them. But they weren't handmade. They were made in a factory somewhere. And so in today's day and age, with as expensive as things are, with as much as wood costs, we know that when we sell a wood product, our price that we have to sell it at to make any profit or even to recover our costs sometimes is going to be quite a bit more than people can buy on Amazon a lot of times or in Walmart or in a store like that. So we have to create the reasoning why they should purchase this product from us and not from one of those places. And that simply is the story. That simply is the fact that it was handcrafted or handmade. And they want to know that. We've set up at our booths before, and we've talked about those 3 cutting boards right there were made from X type of wood that came off of our 105-year-old Century farm. And so they're special to us, and we think you would love them as well. Or, it came from this kind of tree that was there's got to be a story behind it. You might have seen the video we did a month or so ago with carving out the dough bowl for the lady. And that came from a tree that was cut down in the house that she grew up in. And they used to play and swing in it. And so when it had to be cut down, I'm not sure the reason why they had to cut it down, but she wanted something made from a limb from that tree that just evoked memories for her. And so people want to know the stories and they want to know about the product, even something as simple as a cutting board. They so a couple of tips when you're selling these items. Now, we're doing a lot of today's discussion off of social media, talking about social media because let's face it, that's the way a lot of marketing is done now. And more so, we'll talk about it from the point of view from like Facebook as opposed to YouTube because um, you don't do a lot as much direct selling on YouTube. At least small channels, small businesses don't like us and everybody else. So, but so from the point of Facebook, so when you're making these posts, or if you're making a short video where you're putting your item on there, cutting board for sale $75, show the process, show the wood as it originally was. Heck, show the mistakes, show the sawdust, maybe a swipe of your messy shop or whatever you're making it in. Um, have a short clip of you making it. Maybe it's late at night and you mention, hey, it's 10 o'clock, but I love being out here and I want to get these finished up so I can get them to you guys, or something like that. But people connect with stories long before they connect with the products. And they're going to tell people about it. When they see their friend, they go, oh, yeah, how was the market this weekend? Oh, it's great. I bought a cutting board and it's really cool because the board I bought, it came from a maple tree that was cut out of a farm, blah, 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 blah. So just whatever that is, but people connect with those kind of things. I want to give you an example real quick before we move on to the next lesson. And this is an example of somebody probably very few of you, if any of you, probably know of. And because I don't believe he's on YouTube, he's on Facebook. I know that. And so that's where I follow him. But it's a page on Facebook. I'm going to give him a shout out. I don't know if he watches this kind of stuff or not, but if he does, it's Chef Dude Boards. I'll put it on the screen here. And this guy is a perfect example of everything I just said. He does cutting boards for the most part. Now, I think his wife has got into making some earrings and wooden earrings and things like that too, but they do markets. And he's a chef, or a retired chef, recently retired, I think, or fixing to retire, one or the other. But man, all this guy does basically is cutting boards. But he posts, I think, every day for the most part. And he puts a post on Facebook. He's got a big following. In fact, I think he's like I'm just now getting into doing Facebook marketing. But I think so I think he does a lot of posts with, like he shows the process. He'll show him buying the wood. Like he travels a pretty good distance to a couple wood places. He'll show himself looking at the wood and picking out the wood, and then he'll show, him working and doing some little short clips of him making the cutting boards. And then he posts all the time, I got these three I just made. Which one do you like the most? All of that stuff. But one thing really cool he does also is he ties those cutting boards back into his career as a chef. And his whole theme, and I don't want to butcher it, so I'm not going to try to quote it, but it's basically that the kitchen is where you gather. And gathering around food is where people build relationships. And that's the heart of the home, right? And so his whole premise is that, having a nice cutting board um, helps create that story. It helps create those moments in the kitchen and cooking with your family and gathering together, and a charcuterie board where friends can eat and dine together and celebrate life. And he does a beautiful job of intertwining all that together and creating this story that just, man, it makes you want to buy one of his cutting boards. And then he's got a website that you go on and buy them. And take it even further, I think they're all unique. He has a couple that I think are like standard shapes and sizes, but he sells them all, unique really. So check him out though, Chef Dude Boards on Facebook. And man, great guy. And I enjoy keeping up with him. And but that's an example of what I'm talking about. We just went over in lesson 1. He's a model of that. And so keep that in mind when you're, thinking about marketing your products. Is just how you present the product. Don't just make it plain Jane. Don't just say for sale $75. Throw something in it to make people interested in it and make people connect with what you're putting out there. That's lesson 1. All right. Lesson number 2, stop selling products and start solving problems. So think about your customers. Think about the people that come to the farmer's market you're selling at, or the area you live in, or even the audience that you're trying to target with the type of item you're making. And we can even take the word selling out of it. Um, so let's just forget it that we're even selling the product. I mean, that may be the end goal, but when you're making it and when you're presenting it, that's the same thing. So think about your customer. What problems are they trying to solve? So what do you mean? Well, that's an old saying in woodworking is about solving problems. And you see it all the line. If you're on enough channels on Facebook, if you're on enough pages, I should say, like Woodworking for Beginners is a big one, a real popular one. Now, not everything that's posted on there is made by a beginner. I can promise you that much. But Woodworking for Beginners, you see people all the time that said, oh, my wife wanted something to store the laundry detergent in, so I made this little divider for our shelf in our laundry room. Simple as those type of things. Is woodworking is about solving problems. So, and examples of that, so maybe you're the buyers, the people looking at your products, maybe they need wedding gifts or Mother's Day gifts or Father's Day gifts. Maybe they just remodeled their kitchen and they want a unique item to show in the kitchen. So we'll stick with cutting boards. Maybe they want a cutting board to use so they don't, I don't know, for whatever reason, they don't mess up anything else. Or maybe they just want one to display because it'd be a great like decorative item in their kitchen. When you market your products, don't just talk about what they are. Talk about what they do. So in the last lesson, we gave the product a background. We gave it a story. We gave it a way for the buyer or the client or the audience or however you want to look at it to connect with that product that you're selling, you're creating. Now we want to talk about what it can do for them. And you can do that a lot of different ways. It can be very practical. This item is great for XYZ, or it can be something more emotional that ties into that last lesson, like that story. So for example, instead of just having a product saying walnut cutting board, right? Walnut cutting board. It could be, this beautiful walnut cutting board is handcrafted and with care and love, and this thing will last forever if you take care of it right. In fact, this is the kind of cutting board that your kids will fight over when you're gone. Now, that may be like an extreme example, but that's an example. Because now we're not just talking about a rectangular piece of wood or whatever shape it is laying on the table at the farmer's market you're trying to sell these people, or just a picture of a cutting board that you put on Facebook. Now we're talking about like legacy. We're talking about family. We're talking about interaction. We're talking about something bigger than just a piece of wood, right? And so woodworking is about solving problems. And that's really what can kind of make people go, oh, yeah. I'll give you an example. Something is simple. They're all over the place. They're everywhere. At all the markets, they're all over Facebook. They're all over YouTube. They're all over everywhere. Raised planter boxes, right? Or planter beds, or however you want to refer to them. I make them. I make smaller ones that sit lower to the ground. I make taller ones that come up. I don't do a lot of them. I do them per order. I do have them listed on Facebook Marketplace, and I do usually take a few to our local shows. But I make them to order, and because I just don't want to store them all in the shop out here. And I don't sell a ton of them. It's more, like I said, on an order basis. But I'm going to give you an example of how something as simple as one of these planter beds that people have, or boxes that people sell, how you can help it create a need. I've had many times at many shows where we've had a few of these set up, and people are like, oh man, that would be so good because grandma can't bend down and garden in the ground anymore. In fact, I'll make it even more than that. I'll make it personal. That's a situation we have. I talk about the farm on a lot of videos, and my mother-in-law, Beth's mom, has asked me the last 2 summers to make them several raised planter boxes. And not that they don't last longer than that. She still got them. She just wanted more of them. And so the reason for that is because Grandma, who is 97 years old at the farm, um, still really sharp up here, but 97, so she doesn't get around as well. Well, she can't get out really to the garden anymore. And that's something she's done her entire life. As you can imagine, she's 97. She's lived on this farm her entire life. And so she can't make it out to the garden. It's a little bit of a walk from the house. She can't do it. It's a fall hazard and things like that. And so raised planter beds, we can put them beside the door. We can put them on the deck we just built a month or so ago. And she can go out and do some tomatoes or do some peppers or whatever it is she wants to do in these raised planter boxes. And she can still garden with her daughter, my mother-in-law, and with her grandkids. And they love spending time with Grandma. So that is, or well, I guess to them it would be great grandma. But so that's just an example of the way you can show what an item can do, and a need it can meet when you have these things. And somebody goes, "Hey, why would I need one that big?" Well, does it bother you bending over? Does it bother you getting down? I know I hate bending over and gardening. That is kind of thing. Well, I mean, if you just grow this and this and this, something simple, these are great for that. Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah. So, and that's just a quick, easy example, but stop worrying about selling the products and start helping people solve the problems. And the selling takes care of itself. That's lesson 2. Well, all right. So the first 2 lessons focused more on the products themselves and how to market those products and how to make a connection with the clients for those products. These next few lessons are going to focus more on you and me, the woodworker, the creator, the crafter, and the marketer. Don't let that scare you, but that's what it is. And this lesson stings a little bit. It hits me a little bit because I'm guilty of this too. And so these are things that I'm working through, I'm coming to realize, I'm improving on and getting better on. But lesson number 3 is consistency beats perfection. Let me say that again. Consistency beats perfection. And you've heard me use the quote. I said it just a minute ago. It's not about perfection. It's about purpose. So sometimes, guys, we get so worried about creating the perfect post, or what people are going to think about the post, what people are going to think about what the shop looks like, or what we're wearing in the post, or whatever. We get so tied up on creating this perfect post, the perfect picture, the perfect video, the perfect caption for our products. And again, we're kind of talking about that Facebook social media type marketing. Meanwhile, while we're standing around, worrying about all this perfection and worrying about doing it, and we're never actually getting around to doing it, there's somebody else that's posting every day, and they're staying in front of all the potential customers, and they're seeing them and not you. Done. Done is usually better than perfect. And that means exactly how it sounds. Having it done, getting it done is usually better than perfect. Because done means it's out there, it's available for people to see, and it gets the ball rolling for you. And here's the thing is, worrying about perfection all the time. And I've gone through this. I've talked about it before, starting this YouTube channel. Man, it is scary because you are literally, there's, in some people's case, hundreds, sometimes thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, depending on how big you are and how your videos get out there. But there are people that see you, watch you, listen to you, and of course, there's unlimited amounts of criticism that could be made. I've been fortunate so far. I've only had a few of those posts, and they've still been pretty polite. But I know I read a lot of comments from videos I watch from people a lot bigger than my channel, and they get a lot of that stuff. So perfection is never an option. Um, so people want authenticity. That's what people want. And whether that comes on YouTube or it just comes on you being yourself on a 30-second or 1 minute Facebook video, or post, how you word, what you write on there. People just want authenticity, and that's a big thing right now. Um, in a world of AI, we live in a world of AI with online and social media and YouTube. Um, like I said, again, I'm just now kind of getting into the YouTube platform in terms of my business. Really starting to try to ramp that up a little bit. But I know with YouTube, I should say, I'm just now getting into the Facebook stuff and ramping that up. But with YouTube, I know, they're really trying to start hitting hard on creators that just use AI for everything. Nothing's real, everything's made up, everything's fake. And that's starting to be a big deal. And so people want authenticity. Just be yourself and be you. Most people don't expect your woodworking shop or your craft room, or like I said, whatever situation is you're using, to look like $1 million production studio, because theirs doesn't, and most of ours don't. And we all got those couple people we watch on YouTube, or we may see on a Facebook post, not as much as the YouTube platform, but we all got a few of those people that you're like, holy moly, I've got a couple that I watch. But for the most part, when you're making quick Facebook posts, little videos, little shorts, doing photos of your products and of the process on Facebook, for example, again, most people don't expect your shop or your area to look like the set of a major production studio, right? So quit sweating that. So what do? Well, you pick up your phone or your camera, whatever means you want to use. Most people just use the phones these days, especially if you're just taking pictures. Phones are just as good as the cameras most of the time now. So pick up your phone, record a quick clip, take a photo, and share what you're working on. And then do it again tomorrow. Consistency beats perfection. Stop worrying, get it done, and get it out there. And I think you'd be amazed at how well it's received. That's lesson 3. All right, we're going to keep getting tougher. If you thought the last one was bad, are you ready for this one? Lesson number 4. Your face is your brand. That's right. Your face, you, are your brand. Now, this is probably the hardest one for a lot of us to think of and to get used to and to get comfortable with. I don't mind being on camera. I don't mind having myself out there. So I was, it wasn't too bad like when I started this channel, but your face is your brand. Now, I know we want to show the product. We want to show the project. We want to show the tools that you used or the shop you're doing it in. That's all natural stuff because that's what we think. People are interested in that. People are interested in those things. But here's the thing, guys. People connect with people. They want to know who's building the product. They want to know who's standing behind the business. They want to know who's answering the messages or responding to the emails, the text, or however, whatever they're getting a hold of you or they're communicating with you when they want to make orders. They want to know who's putting their stamp of approval on the finished product. And that's you. That's the creator, the owner, or whatever it is, however you have it set up. But don't hide behind your work. You got to step in front of the camera occasionally, whether that's on a bigger platform like YouTube, or whether that's just on these small short videos that you do for Facebook or Instagram or whatever outlet you use. But you got to put yourself in front of the camera occasionally. You got to tell your story. I told my wife that when she started her side hustle apparel business. I said, hey, one of the first things you need to do is, if you're going to be on Facebook, if you're going to post on Facebook, you need to make one of your first videos just you sitting down, maybe some of your product beside you on the table or behind you or whatever, and just do a quick video on who you are and why you wanted to start this and why your products are what they are. And so people want to know you and people want to know your story. People tend to buy from people that they know, they like, and they trust. This is really important on social media because there are only little small snippets that people see. They're not with you all day long. They're not with you when, if it's a side hustle and you work all day and you get home, you cook dinner or make dinner or do whatever, spend time with your kids, and your kids go to bed, you head out to your shop and you start making stuff to sell at the local craft fair this weekend. They don't know all that unless you show them a little bit of it. And so it's important on social media. It's important online if you want a presence there. It's important if you're doing vendor shows or craft fairs or farmers markets. When you're in front of people face to face, not always. I mean, it's good to greet and say hi. I've talked about that before. You got to get up and you got to talk to the clients coming into your booth or to your table. But sometimes more than hi is needed. I mean, sometimes people want to know about your business. Sometimes they'll ask you, "You guys local? Are you guys this? Are you guys that? Do y'all make this out of this or that? Do you order things and make them?" A lot of times people ask that. Don't let them ask that. Beat them to the punch, and not in a pushy way, but just, "Hey guys, check everything out we got. We make everything local here in town. It's made out of locally sourced products. We don't order our wood or buy it from anywhere else and have it shipped in. We get it from local shops or local places. Some we get directly off our farm. It's been in our family forever." Again, this is your story, and it ties back into the story for the product, like we talked about in the first lesson. So your face is your brand. Don't be scared to put it out there. That's lesson number 4. All right, guys. Lesson 5. Build relationships, not followers. Now that sounds confusing. I get it. So let me explain. When it comes to social media, if we're talking about being online and create a presence online for your business and for you as the face of the brand, as we just talked about, it's real easy to get caught up in a few things. And I know this from experience growing this channel the last 5 months or so. A lot of people chase numbers. More followers, more likes, more views. And yes, for sure, those things can be helpful. The more people that see your videos, pictures, posts, whatever the particular thing is, the greater percentage that someone's going to want to purchase something or buy something. If we're talking about posting about your products and the things that you make and the things that you're marketing. So yes, for sure, those things can be helpful. But what I'm really talking about here is the mindset. The mindset of building clientele, building relationships with the people that keep up with you or the people that buy your products, and not just followers that click on it and then never keep up with anything. So, because that's part of the online thing. That's part of social media. That's part of, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, any of that stuff. And so the mindset needs to be this. I'd rather have 100 people who genuinely care about the work that I'm doing and the products that I'm posting and the things that I'm making than have 10,000 people who just scroll right past it and don't actually pay attention. And the reason why I say that is because those 100 people, in this example, those 100 people are going to be more valuable to the growth of your brand. Whether your brand is you teaching something. In this case, of course, we're talking about selling your products that you make. So those 100 people are going to be more valuable to your brand than just having the numbers that don't actually look at your stuff or keep up with your stuff. Now, how do we do that? How do we get those people that are relationship built? And yes, that sounds tough, and it is tough because it's online. Now, some people you're going to meet. Some people you're going to know personally. They're going to be your family and friends. That's how we all start out. And some people you're going to meet at the craft fairs, the farmers markets you do. I talk about that. A lot of the ones we do are put on by the same organization, the same group. And so a lot of the same people are at all these shows. And so, yeah, you get to know the lady that sells the really good cookies and the lady that, uh, does the cupcakes and that makes lemonade and the people that do the leather work and the other woodworking guys and people that sell T-shirts and all these different vendors. You get to know them because you see them over and over again. A lot of times, at least once a month, if you do the shows regularly. Sometimes more than that if you do more of them. So you build relationships in person that way. But the tough part is building the relationships online when it's somebody that you're never going to meet. And that's something that, from starting a YouTube channel and working on growing the YouTube channel, that I experienced personally. And so how do you do that? How do you work on building relationships and growing actual valuable people, valuable consumers of the product that you're putting out or the posts or the videos that you're putting out? Well, here's a couple things you can do. And I've talked about this on other videos when it comes to the YouTube stuff. I talked about it last week, week before last. Reply to comments. If somebody has questions about your products that you're putting out there, again, we're kind of using Facebook as the, kind of the platform, that's maybe more common for this type of stuff. Reply to comments. So when people have questions about your product, when they have questions about what it's made out of, or maybe even the process, make sure to reply to those comments. And even if it's a thumbs up, great job, looks good, and all those kinds of things, because you do get a lot of that, reply to those and say thank you, or give a response back, or a thumbs up, but whatever the way to do it is. Answer messages. Now that could be, if you're selling stuff, obviously, if you're going to have a website that could have a messaging platform, I get messages through Facebook Messenger, so not in the actual comments of the post, but in Messenger. Obviously, if you are trying to sell stuff, you may put your phone number out there where people can text you or call you, but you got to respond. You got to answer those things. Answer the messages. Thank customers. If you do have a purchase, it's really cool to throw up on your Facebook page that afternoon if you sell something that morning. And you go drop it off with them, say, hey, would you mind taking a picture with me with this cutting board I made you, or this bowl, or whatever it is? Put it on your Facebook page. Give them a shout out. Say thank you to Mr. and Mrs. Johnson for purchasing this end table from you, or whatever it is. And so just thank the customers. And when you do that in that public forum, it lets the other people know that are following you, that are keeping up with you, that you're really in tune to how important it is that you have those interactions. Remembering names. Now, I know that can be a tough one because not all of us have great memory. I don't have great memory. And it's kind of a learned skill. And for example, it's something I really learned working in the retail environment for 20-something years. When I ran those optical stores for LensCrafters, my primary store for most of those years was a multi-million-dollar location. And we were busy every day, all day. And we had a lot of customers come in. And a lot of them are repeat. And of course, over the years, they're all repeat. But some of them were frequently in the store, whether they were getting, things that go with eyeglasses, cleanings, adjustments, troubleshooting, repairs, whatever they may be. But when somebody walks in the door and you can say, hey, what's going on, Mr. Williams? Or, hey, how's it going, Miss Johnson? Or whatever it is, man, their eyes light up and they really know that you care about them and you know about them, that they're important to your business. And so that's no different when you, excuse me, that's no different when they, message you or comment online, or they say something to you, or they drop you a text, or really valuable when you see them in person and you do your shows and you do your markets and things like that, that you try to remember names. And, it's just, it's that little extra touch that really builds the relationship. And like I said, not always easy to do, very difficult, especially if it's not something you're doing frequently. But man, if you can get that skill, or you have the ability to remember people's names, it's a fantastic way to grow relationships. Celebrate repeat customers. If somebody comes back to you more than one time and they purchase something, man, you want to make sure that you thank them for it. And again, you can publicly celebrate that on Facebook, for example, if that's our platform. Hey, you know, Christy bought, Christy loved her signs that we made her for her clients last month so much. She bought 3 more today. Thanks so much, Christy. We look forward to doing business with you again. Whatever it is, but celebrate the repeat customers. So the point of all that is business grows through relationships, not algorithms and not just numbers for the sake of numbers. It grows through how you interact with the people that really make your business run. And if you're selling things, it's people that are buying from you. So lesson 5, build relationships, not followers. All right, lesson number 6. It's the last one and then we'll wrap up. So lesson number 6 is don't wait to start marketing when sales are slow. Don't wait. Because here's what's going to happen. It's going to be too late. I know that seems like a simple concept, but it's something that's overlooked way too often. When things are slow, you're already behind the 8 ball. Let me give you an example. So when you're talking about craft fairs and vendor fairs, and I've talked about this before, but it's perfect for this situation. In the spring and the early summer, normally craft shows you do well at. If the weather is nice, people are out shopping, people are in buying moods. You get into late summer, July and August. For us in our area, it slows down quite a bit because one, it's 100 degrees outside on a Saturday when you're out there at this craft show, and that just detours a lot of people. And they just don't get out and they're not in a shopping mood for that. Also, people have went on summer vacations and they ain't got any money now. And so they're not buying and spending on things. And so that time is a really slow period. So you don't want to just start, you got a show coming up in August when it's traditionally a slow time. You don't want to just throw a couple things on Facebook and go, hey, come see us. If you're doing that, it's already too late to start doing that. So all these things we've talked about in the first 5 lessons, those are all things we've got to start doing earlier on. And if we're using our example of the farmers markets, if you've been all through the spring and into the early summer, you've been posting, showing products, listing items, letting people know that, once a month you're at these vendor shows that are, in the area. All of these things, you're doing your due diligence to put yourself out there and really promote your brand and your products and the things you've been doing. And you've built that momentum up. When that slow times comes, you're not just relying on sitting there and hoping. Maybe you've got repeat customers from things before, like we talked about earlier. Maybe you've got some custom orders starting to come in. Maybe you've got things that help get you through that slow time. And again, if we're talking about bringing in a little bit of an income, maybe you've got some money coming in. It's kind of like people that don't have any savings. And again, this is not, I'm just throwing an example out there financially. It's a way to give you an example. Somebody that, something unfortunate happens, you get laid off, you lose your job, you have an injury or an illness and you can't work, whatever the case may be, and you don't have any savings built up. And so it's really tough getting through this period without anything stocked up. So similar type of thing. If you need to get through the slow period, you got to have something stocked up, something stashed away, something saved up, whether it be money or momentum and business. You got to have something there to help you get through the slow times. Don't wait to start your marketing. Don't wait to start getting your stuff out there when it's a slow time. Now, that's going to be a little different for everybody. Online sales, to in-person sales and things like that, that's just a trial and error of knowing when those times are. But going back to our vendor, our farmers market example, our craft show example, we've, if that slow time is in late summer, August and that sort of thing, and you're able to already have some stored up to get you through that slow time, and maybe help buy new materials and you get products made. So when the holiday season comes up, it's going to be time to kill it because that's the buy-in time. That's when people shop. You get into October, November, and in December, people are ready to buy stuff again. And maybe it's cooled off in your area and they start showing up at the shows more. Or if you've got an online presence, they need Christmas gifts or, whatever. So don't wait till the last minute to start your marketing. Do it ahead of time and make sure you have those relationships built up and you've got that consistency built up before the slow time. That's lesson 6. Now let's wrap up. Well, all right, guys, thanks for joining me this morning. Here's my final thoughts. At the end of the day, marketing isn't about convincing people to buy something they don't want. Please don't do that. It's about connecting the right people with something you genuinely believe in. If you're building quality products, you're treating customers right, you're putting your heart into your work, then don't be afraid to tell people about it. They can't support your business if they don't know it's around. So keep building, keep sharing, and keep showing up. And remember, the sawdust, the wood, the tools, that may be what people see, but the story is what they'll remember. Thanks for joining me today. We'll talk to you next time. Take care.